I just decided mediocre wasn't good enough. It was like I flipped a switch. Our profits went up as a result of doing all these things 10 times. I'm Todd Clark, and I'm the co-owner, because my wife would remind me that she's also the co-owner of Denali Tech, and so we're out of Anchorage, Alaska, and we serve the Alaska market space. So I actually started in IT in Anchorage in 1988, and I was working for somebody else, and I just had my idea of how things ought to be done. So in 2001, I started Denali Tech. We had a rough several years in there. If we were paying ourselves what we should have been, we were underwater, and we hadn't learned operations yet. We hadn't learned how to price our services, and of course I also had all this head trash. And the head trash is that we're in a small market. We've only got 800 prospects. I've got somebody doing these dials, but how do I, they're oversaturated the list, and on and on and on. December of 22. Well, I think it was in November, I went with that group to see Robert Hershevek. About that time, Robin started doing her coaching weekly for the captains. And, and she had to look at my numbers. So Robin, of course, she tells you exactly what you need to hear. And at that point, I was, capitulated about what I'm going to do to grow. She says, you need to raise prices. You're not profitable. And I had heard that by more than one person, but she kind of held my feet to the fire and said, this is what you need to do next. And so I cut my costs by a person. I raised my prices a significant amount. And then I started doing BCIO. I started getting more referrals, and clients started getting happier. We raised even more prices. We started doing more projects. And here's what happened. In 2023, we grew our top line revenue by well over 30%. And our profits went up as a result of doing all these things 10 times.
Okay. So 10x your profits. So your bottom line?
My bottom line net profit went up by 10 times. Here's the big picture, is we've been at this for 20 years. And it wasn't until I started listening to Robin and her experts in residence, Greg Crabtree for the financials, Paul Sissel for operations, and taking advantage of things like visiting with Hershevek and Robin's direct coaching, that I was able to put things on a trajectory where we can actually see our retirement happen. Think about your life first and what your plan ought to be. And being able to work backwards and say, okay, we need X millions of dollars. And where are we at today? What do we have in say? So what does this business need to provide? Well, until we had this breakthrough last year, I couldn't see that coming together. Now we can. Which is, that's when you talk about how it's affected our lives, that's gold right there.